All right, here we go for episode, I believe it's 23 for the New Mexican Sports Podcast. As always, I am your sports editor, Will Weber, joined by my esteemed, notable Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame colleague, James Barron, who won a
I'm a famous
national award. You won a national award last week. You didn't even go. So thanks for that. They'll be mailing you your acrylic trophy here any day, James.
Oh, dude, I already got it, man.
No, you
I
got
already
it
got that thing
already.
Yeah, I got it actually I think it was on the 30th.
Oh, there you go. It's
Yeah,
kind of cool.
yeah.
They
So,
break easily though, so don't knock them over. They do look nice.
well, that's why Chris took it and not me. So she's the only one that preserves all that stuff.
You missed a good show because Greensboro, North Carolina. Look, I'd never been there, but super humid and the food was amazing. They hold at this really nice resort, big celebrities. So when you win it next year, maybe you can go out there and take a look.
Well, it's a good thing that it was last week and not this week, or else I had to deal with that hurricane.
Yeah, well, yeah, hurricane that
Yeah,
no one will be able to predict now that well, that's another show. We can
yeah,
get into
yeah.
NOAA stuff later.
I don't think we brought our guest on here to talk about climate change.
No. Well, nice segue there, Barone. Here we go. Our guest this week is a guy that James and I both covered in high school. That's how old he is, and that's how long we've been around. Carl Vigil, your official title with the New Mexico Activities Association is Commissioner of Officiating. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So you're the guy. Yeah, I know you're the guy when the zebras get in trouble or if somebody has a problem with them. You're the man. So just tell us what your job entails at the NMAA.
Yeah, just like you said, making sure that we get enough officials, recruiting, retaining through the year and all sports, not just in the major sports of football, basketball, and baseball, but, volleyball, soccer, spirit, making sure we get everybody registered. I help run with the regional assigners, our coordinators, and getting those games assigned correctly. And then the big job at the end of the seasons of each sports season is staffing our state tournaments, and then everything in between. Just like you mentioned, any of our officials that are could be in trouble or in any incident like that, I will take care of it here at the office. So it's pretty much in a nutshell of what I do.
Carl, how long have you been in that position now? What is this? Your second year or third year?
This will be year 3. So second year as commissioner of officials. I did start as an assistant under Zach Stevenson prior to Sally leaving us. She did name me commissioner of officials. Zach turned into the role of director of officiating services. So we worked hand in hand with that. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's funny because I think growing up, some kids don't really think about becoming school teachers, but then you get into college and that becomes a career path. I don't know if anyone really grows up thinking about they want to be an official or let alone in charge of officiating. How did you get from point A to point B where you are now to become we all know that the guys who wear the striped shirts are the ones who take a lot of abuse. So why on earth would you want to make a career out of that?
Yeah, like you mentioned, college. We don't make very much money. My brother and I, Curtis, we were playing sports at New Mexico Highlands. It was just a means of income, So we said, we played basketball, so we jumped in the basketball side. Baseball is coming up, so we started with that. So we've been at it for quite a while. I just finished year 20 with basketball. We thought I would have been here that long, and it was just that, going through high school and seeing some of the officiating that we saw. And I'm like, man, I think I could do a better job than that guy or girl. And when we got into it, just something that came natural. And before you knew it, just like we're speaking earlier, man, I jumped up the ranks, in the Las Vegas area. My brother came and did it over here. We enjoyed it. We wanted to be part of it, and we just hated to be away from the game. We did play football, basketball, baseball. I still wanted to be a part of all that. So that's pretty much where it got me involved back in officiating.
Especially in your new role here with the NMAA, what are some of the big challenges? And I think we kind of know really, hiring and retaining officials is maybe number one on that list. But what are some of the other duties that kind of you have to oversee or perform?
The hard part is again with the retainment, but it's just the officials. We got to keep them happy in a sense. all our officials feel that they're state tournament officials, and that's always my hard part, is giving him my feedback of, why they didn't get to a championship and why they didn't make a postseason assignment. And then again, knowing a lot of people throughout the state, it's just hard to give him that, being the boss. I'm their friend, yes, but at the end of the day, I got a job to do, and state tournaments to staff, and giving him that bad news, that's been my hardest part of being in this role. Other than that, it's actually a really good spot, just meeting a lot of people, going throughout the state and being able to watch sporting events. When they ask, how's it working the NMAA? I said, it's like working for ESPN, man. I deal with sports all day long. So, I mean, what more could you ask for?
Yeah, I want to dive in a little bit on how you choose which officials will go into the state tournaments. But first, I want to ask you about the other side of it. Yeah, I'm sure, yeah, on some level, when you're officiating a game, you got to hear it from the fans, because we live in a day and age where you can scroll on TikTok or Instagram and you see all these reels about people all over officials just yelling and screaming, losing their minds. When you're an official, how much does that impact you? Or is that part of the training process, is to tune some of that out? What do you do?
Yeah, again, we see a lot of that in the news, social media. That's like 10% of what we really go through. The other 90%, it's really all good. The officials that we bring in, number one, we want to start them with a mentor. We want to make sure we get them on track, we get them in the rule book, and then we get them with their training. If we can do those three to get them started and understand the process of staying an official and being a good official, that helps us retain officials. Yes, dealing with fans and all that is part of being an official. But again, if we can get the first three right, just as I mentioned, it becomes less and less of a problem retaining them. Just like I mentioned, when they say, how do you stay with it? I know the rules. And when I listen to a fan tell me over the back, first of all, over the back is not a rule. It's a displacement foul. It's just, absurd, some of the stuff that I hear. It's like that doesn't even make sense. So when we have officials that understand the game that they're officiating, it's easy to keep him.
Call it both ways, ref. Oh, you hear that about
Oh, we hear that all the
time. Call it both ways. That was a foul 5 minutes ago, ref. You're killing me.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. I can tell you is I've never met an official that's gone into a game and said, you know what, I'm going to go screw over this team today because I just hate their colors.
That's not what they say anymore.
No, that's what I was going to say.
I know in certain places they say, oh, he's from, I don't know, Las Vegas, he's going to screw us tonight. That's not the case. The majority of our guys and girls, they're good overall people. They have no intentions of burning kids, schools, any of that. We have such a great, of a pool of officials that are just great people. They have no intentions of doing that.
I was you talked about the 10% part, and I think unfortunately I think that 10% gets blown up a little bit more than maybe what it actually is. But I mean, can you talk about the perception versus maybe the reality of fan behavior? Because I think, again, we always hear about it when the bad things happen, but for the most part, it's not as common as people think.
Yeah. We try to get with, being here from the office, is get with our administrators from each school and help change that culture in schools. That's been the hard part from our office is getting their fans and their coaches and players to behave a certain way, and it's helping or trying to get them to change that culture in the school. We do have some bad apples out there. And that's where, I can kind of speak a little bit on, the strike rule, where sometimes administrators have a tough time dealing with their fans, and that's where we come in and if we have to give them the strike. And social media, anybody, you won't hear about that. That's all kept under wraps. But that strike rule has come in and played a big role in helping keep those fans and the schools, not getting to that point where we're scaring officials off. Again, we always say we got to have thick skin, and we still have officials that, we say the rabbit ears, and we try to teach and get them away from that. But again, that's all we hear. But being in my role, I've actually gotten quite a bit of emails saying, "Hey, that crew tonight that worked our, Mesa Vista game or the Albuquerque High game, they did a fantastic job." We don't hear about that a lot, and you guys don't. But we do push that out back to them, like, "Hey, nice job tonight. You guys, we just got an email. Here's the email. We forward it to them, to their assigners. We've even gotten some from schools where schools are really happy that they got certain crews. So, yeah, that 10% is always big in the media, and that's always going to be portrayed in that. But we do our best to keep them out of that, their mental state of mind, and making sure it comes out positive. We always want to be positive.
I think people are starting to get the message that, hey, you know what? There's no reason to treat officials the way they do. Look, maybe guys make a call that's questionable or subjective on some level, but I think are people starting to tone it down a little bit? Has behavior gotten a little bit better? You think?
It's gotten a little bit better, um, but when it gets to that point, it's gotten. I don't know if you know what I mean. It gets a little bit worse. So when it was the jeering against the officials, uh, their tone has gone a little bit higher. Uh, the majority of it has gone down, but when it does get to that point, it's gone kind of obscene, where
Mhm.
now our office has to get involved. When it was just before, boo ref, you suck tonight, whatever it is. That verbiage has gone a little bit more than we would like it. So yes, in a sense, it's gone down, but when it does get to that point, it's gotten pretty bad.
Um, I guess, in that case, then I think, maybe we're kind of dancing around the elephant in the room. But I mean, when it comes down to it, is that even with some of this positive things that have been coming about over the last few years, I think maybe the previous 5, 10, maybe even 15 years, you saw how officials' numbers were dwindling, and it's gotten to an extreme situation, especially in certain regions there. I think you were kind of alluding to us earlier. The southeast has kind of struggled a little bit, and I think up north, the northeast side, especially for football, it's been a bit of a struggle. But for you, how concerning is it, when you start to hear how some of these regions are struggling just to staff games, and sometimes having to change schedules because you just don't have enough?
Yeah, it's very concerning to us. We try to get with officials and their admins, if you will, and try to recruit as much as we can. But yes, it's very concerning, because we the position that we get put in is now we have to move games, like you said, and the last thing we want to do is cancel a game. Um, but we've been working with schools quite a bit, and some schools and some administrators have been very helpful in moving games. So, everybody wants to play Friday night lights football. Now schools are moving to Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, um, or even back to back. Where we're able to play, like, especially here in the central area, we're able to play some early varsity games versus some late night ones. But yes, it's disheartening for the kids, but we just get put in those positions. It's rare, though, that we have to cancel stuff. We try to make it work as much as we can. We do whatever we can, anywhere from working with administrators, if we can get them to work a game, and we can waive their fees to get in the stripes. High school kids, if they want to get involved, and we need somebody that the next day or that day, we're able to waive those fees and put them on, as long as we know that they're in good hands with another veteran official. That's the last thing we want to do is cancel the game. So we try our very best to try to recruit officials from all over the state.
Yeah, just take us through that process. If, say, someone did have an interest in joining the officiating crew for whatever sport they're interested in, like, how does that start? Do they usually contact you, or do you get them from some of these camps? Like, I know your brother's working camp coming up here in a couple weeks. So, like, just take us through the process from first spark of interest all the way to putting on that outfit.
Yeah, so they can go through local associations, or they can go through local officials if they know of one. That always comes back to me. So we do have a platform called Dragonfly. That is where we get registration done, where we assign games, we get officials paid through. That's where the process starts. So they get registered. I get their information. I process their information. depending on what areas and regions they want to work. That information gets sent back to their regions. That's when their assigners know who, is all registered in their area. Then we go through the process of, meetings, district clinics, state clinics, or our summer conference, where we start training our officials of the process of, what we do through a game. And then we just, as we go through the season, we just find their level of experience and put them on games that fits that best. Um, we do get all officials digital rule books. We get all officials the hard copies. They go through local meetings where they help each other out as far as learning rules, mechanics, communication skills. And then our local associations do their best to get them a mentor. Pretty much in a nutshell of how we get them registered.
For you in particular, especially over the last couple of years, what kind of initiatives or how much effort have you put in as far as the recruitment and the retention part? Because I mean, you're one of those guys that's, you've been there for 20, 25 years now, and you kind of understand how, the difficulties of officiating, not just from being on the court, but obviously the time that it takes from travel to, trying to balance your work schedules and everything. What kind of work have you tried to do on your end to kind of help certain regions or just in general with recruitment?
Well, I'm still an active official. I still get out there with my guys and girls on the field and on the court. Um, what I do is if I see somebody that looks interested, or again, if we have a fan that's kind of irate about something like that, hey, I always try to go speak with them on a personal level and like, hey, we need officials. We might not have been the best tonight, but maybe it would take someone like you. And I go, try to have a little sit down with them and explain, like, this is how we learn and do our games. And I think this process might fit you. But that's one thing coming up in my second year is trying to push that across the state, is getting our other officials to do the same thing. So we can have every official bring one person in to their association. That would be a big help. So that's pretty much what I do from a personal level. And I'll start pushing that message across the state as I go through.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I did a story about the football crew who worked a Friday night game, did a Saturday game, and then did a second game that same Saturday. It was basically the same crew largely. And while I followed them from 3 different sites, I was surprised that the thing you never really notice as a fan is how much communication, nonverbal stuff goes on between the officials on the field. Just a lot of hand gesturing and looks. And it's really a teamwork mentality. And you can tell that some of these crews really do bond, that you're not just out there throwing flags or blowing whistles. You're actually developing relationships with the people you work with. And that to me, I think was the coolest thing to take away from all that, is these guys really seem to enjoy just working together.
Yeah. Oh, that's always big, is having that camaraderie within our team. We always say we're the best team out there, before we go out. But yeah, those communication skills, they go a long way. That's another thing we try to push across, of getting to be the same throughout the state. So, if Robertson or St. Mike's want to go down and play in Dexter, those officials are going to do the same thing as far as communication and having the same signals and communicating with the coaches. We try to push that message across, and making sure that everybody's doing the same thing across the board, not just in one part of the state. And that's always big. Communication, it goes a long way, from dealing with coaches and players to your own your fellow officials on the field or the court. If you're unsure what's going on, that we try to train them, but then it makes us looks a whole lot cleaner during the game if we know we can communicate. From football, we're moving the sticks, we know it's a first down, to basketball, we know we got a technical foul. Let's put the ball back in play. We try to, nonverbal stuff. It's always a big key role in our officiating.
How much, in terms of the studying in between games and talk, and the crews talking with each other and the officials and kind of working on honing their skills, but how much time in a week does the average, at least in your opinion, the average ref commit to help improve or just keep those skills sharp?
You know what? I'll be honest with you, James. It's not a whole lot because this is an avocation for a lot of people. You know, we're lucky if they meet once a week for an hour or two to get together and go over rules. So if it's an hour or two that day, they met on a Monday night, and the next would be prior to a game, and that's the hard part because these guys they have families, they have full-time jobs. The last thing you want to go home and is study a rule book for another couple hours. I get it, they're tired, but for our most successful referees, uh, they can average pretty much, a good 10 to 15 hours a week in studying because these guys are aspiring to be a college official or, whatever it be that they want to continue moving up from moving on from a middle school game to a JV game to a varsity game. Those officials are going to put a little bit more time into it. I get it. It's an avocation. We're in a world where we want to make some money, so we do have all those officials that are just around to make that extra paycheck. But yeah, that's kind of where it's at as far as putting your time and effort into a book. I know for some of us that have been successful, we do put in the hours, and the big one is during the summer. We're at camps and we're actually spending a lot of money to go learn the craft and making sure that we're still above and going above and beyond to keep up with the game.
Now, your brother's one of those people who's kind of risen above the
Yeah.
high school ranks. He's kind of done the college level thing. Before I ask you about him specifically, which one of you was the better athlete at Robertson? You or Curtis? Come on, just spill the beans, man. No, this is your in your face question.
You know what? Of course, me, Will. I mean, you know what? We were good in our own in our own positions, if you will. Curtis was a hell of a quarterback at Robertson. My two sports were football and baseball. Man, at football, I love to hit. Baseball, that was one big thing, and that's what took me on to New Mexico Highlands University. Curtis was a heck of a shooter, and in baseball that he could just hit. So, but
Yeah,
Will, come on,
yeah.
man, that's an easy one.
Well, James and I will debate this one off the air. We'll do that.
Yeah, no, but the more important question is, who's the better ref now?
Yeah,
You know what? Curtis is probably the best official in the family, and is the best official in the family. And past that, he's probably one of our top three,
Yeah.
if not the best official in the state of New Mexico. And not just because he's my brother. I'm sure there's a few officials around the state that can say he's really good.
Yeah, well,
He's just waiting for the right time and that phone call, man. We're going to see him on TV one of these days.
yeah.
yeah,
Now he's done some college work too.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get into that college level, you can start to make some decent money doing that too. I mean, what's that like? I know the pay for high school officials, you're not going to get rich doing it.
Yeah.
You're doing it for the love of the game. But when you start moving into that college level, you're talking like four figures.
Pretty lucrative.
Yeah. The Division I level, that's where you start making those big common checks. Right now, I work some Division II stuff. Curtis is a big Division II guy, but it's kind of the same right now. We don't make a whole lot. Curtis don't make a whole lot. Making that as a living, just because all the time and effort you put into it, from the travel, the hotels, and then everything in between. So if it's just say an RMAG game, it's about $320 a night. I mean, you still got to put half of that check into your meals and gas and hotel.
Yeah.
It's a tough world, so you really got to enjoy it and want to and be there. Again, just like you guys mentioned, we want to still be a part of the game, and I think that's what keeps us in it.
Yeah.
One of the things, and it's kind of funny that timely that we had you here, but I know a lot of a lot of other officials in different sports, whether it's volleyball or soccer or baseball. I know they've kind of reached out and just talked about how, I think they feel like they're at a crisis level in terms of the number of officials that they have, and the fact that a lot of the people who are working right now feel overworked. I think Will's example of that football officiating crew doing three games and
Yeah.
basically a day. I mean, that takes out a lot of these guys. I remember talking to Greg Sandoval, and he talked about how I think it's a couple of years ago, but I mean, he's doing at least 4 or 5 games a week, and the body, especially when you get into your 40s and 50s and even in your 60s, you just don't recover like you used to, and it can be really hard. Would you consider this? Are we approaching a crisis level, or is just more? We just need to keep working at trying to recruit kids and trying to help them stay once they get involved.
Yeah, right now, in my personal opinion, we're not at a crisis level. Games are still going to be played. We're still able to get the coverage. The numbers are getting better little by little, not only in the state but across the nation. In fact,
Mhm.
our Dana Pappas, or commissioner of officials here a few years back, before Zach Stevenson, sent out our email and was giving us a number. So the numbers are looking pretty good across the nation. Right now, we're little by little getting our numbers back up. And other sports that you would think, like wrestling, volleyball's another one, just because it's less stress on the body. Other than being on your feet for 3 hours, that's tough in itself.
True.
But yes, we're getting to that point in time where our officials are starting to age out. I mean, I want to say the median age of an official is probably in the mid 50s, 55 years of age, and those guys are
Yeah.
getting up there. We still have officials in their 60s still working, and we're starting to think about that, and knowing that they're on their way out, and trying to bring those younger officials in where we can get them up and trained and ready to rock and roll by the time those guys and girls leave. We have a new batch of officials coming up. It's going to take some time and effort, but we're not at a crisis level yet. But
Yeah.
yes, there's that time that hopefully we don't get there. I'm hoping we
Yeah.
don't.
Is it also one of those things where it kind of depends? It's like kind of one of those, it depends. Like you talk about the Southeast region where you probably do need some baseball officials. I know definitely up Northeast, they've had some trouble with that with baseball and obviously football too. I think that's something that's been a bit of a problem for the last couple of years. Is it kind of like certain sports are in better situations than others? Again, just because of the aging out process or what have you.
Yeah, I think the main issue is a lot of our officials are multi-sport officials. So
Mhm.
if like me, I start in football, I go to basketball. By the time I get to baseball, I'm dead tired. So in the spring and I'm getting on the field, I'm like, man, like even I'm 42 years old, and I get on a baseball field and I'm like, I should have took at least 2 weeks off before I got in this field. But I do it for the kids. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is doing it for the kids. But yeah, so like our spring sports, by the time you get to baseball and softball and track, and now we're on the outdoor sports and it's hot, or it's, well,
Mhm.
in New Mexico, you can have at any given day, snow, sunshine, rain. That
Any
we
day,
get
any hour, man. Sometimes it's
it,
like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So it does get. I want to say our spring sports are the ones that hurt more, just because our multi-sport officials are just dead tired by the end of that season.
The NMA, what I like about the NMA, they puts on a pretty good show, and they really do care about the kids, and it's a membership driven organization, but they're also proactive. They usually don't wait for a forest fire to try to fix things. They try to do it beforehand. Like what improvements? Look, we talked about the strike rule and some of the interaction with the fans, but what sort of things have the NMA been working on just to make life better for you guys? Not just from an administration level, but from the people who are actually on the field, and just I don't know, making sure that officials aren't one and done. They walk into a gym and get screamed at and leave, just to make life better for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, well, as far as on the officials portion of it, it just making sure that they're rewarded, in some way or another. If they had a heck of a season, we can get them to the state tournament. That's one way. Recognize our officials that had, most improved. It's just recognizing our officials. Um, One thing we do, we push across the state to our athletic directors, is making sure that when our officials show up, we have security there for them. They're fed, or the waters, and whatever you can give them in the locker room, and they're just treated well. So that's one thing that we try to push to our schools, is treat our officials just like as you want to be treated if you were a guest at somebody else's house.
We need security when we walk into some of these places.
That's true.
It, yeah, I see James. Well, both of you guys, we're the one place that you and I, James and Will, we always meet in the hospitality room, man.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes that's not even hospitable. I mean, let's be
No,
honest.
no.
So yeah, that's where we're at from the office. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we do. We try to put messages across and try to help out schools. So if they need help, how to guide them through, just being for changing the culture to helping our officials, we do our best from the office to push that message across.
What's the one big initiative that you would like to that you'd like to accomplish maybe this year or over the next couple of years?
Well, of course, it's always recruitment and
Yeah.
retain. That's going to be the big one, and making sure we have enough officials. Again, we're not at that level where stuff's going to go down or think games will be played. But it's just improving our officials is the next big thing for me. So the training, all the little things in between, like you said, how do we stay our mental game and staying involved in the game is just our training, getting them back in the rule book. That way we have less of those moments where we're dealing with fans and coaches where they're upset because, they got screwed on a call, whatever it be. So first off, recruitment. Next off is our training and making sure our officials get better. So that's one thing that I want to start pushing across is just, hey guys, we need to go to camps, come to our conferences, watch our clinics online. We got to get better.
Well, now we did touch on this a little bit earlier, but we get down to state basketball tournament, football playoffs, soccer, whatever, those sports, and not all the officials can participate. So how do you go about picking the people who are going to officiate the games, the men and women? Because that's the biggest stage of all. It's a celebration of not only the athletes and the coaches and even the fans and the towns, but the officials as well. It's a reward type thing. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah. So again, I mentioned we have regional assigning coordinators throughout the state. They do a good job of having, a few people here and there that will go check out games and watch officials and evaluate. And that message gets pushed back to us and letting us know, like, hey, I'm thinking about bringing James or Will over for the state tournament. I'll try to get it and watch online on NFHS or a YouTube game and that they have online. And at the end of the season, we do come together. We put all the names on the board and we go through the whole list. Did this official attend a summer conference? Did this official do their exam? Did this official work so many games? And then we bring that number down, and then we start getting to, okay, what's our quality like? Whatever. The one thing we have done a little bit different in the past since I left working a state tournament was we've upped our numbers. So before, if we brought 36 basketball officials, last year we brought a total of 60. We did get some opportunities, but we want to make sure that the quality is still there. So if we could get to 60, we could get to 60. But if it means that we only bring 42 because that's what we need to bring the best quality of officiating, so we give the best experience to the student athletes and to you and to the fans, because that's the last thing I want on my plate is, man, that officiating was bad this year in the state tournament. I mean, it comes with the territory. I know I'm still going to hear it, but I just want to make sure we're putting the best quality officials on the court and make sure they're up to par, and that I trust them enough to get them on a Santa Fe, capital game where they're able to take care of business.
Yeah.
And I do have some people in between. So again, it goes back to my brother, to Nate Acosta, who was here prior, other officials that have worked in the college level, the Wilson Hollins, other officials that are still currently working, and they say, hey, I saw so-and-so down in Hobbs. We should really take a look at bringing this official up. And so I always take that into consideration. Again, my networking throughout the state has been very helpful, where not only do we have evaluators, but even our administrators, we get our school evaluations back too. So that's another thing we've been implemented is asking for feedback from the coaches and the athletic directors. Is this person capable of working a state tournament, and would you recommend him? So it's not only just officials that get our feedback and our evaluators, it's also the schools, making sure that they're wanted, and if we were to put them on the court, that they want them on their game. So everybody has a part in playing their role in getting to the state tournament, and then final decision goes through me. I get back with our sports director, and then if Dusty and our sport director is okay, that's where we go with the state tournament, and those people are invited.
What's that like now being that guy? I mean, we talk about how tough it is when you deal with fans, but when it's your colleagues, man, and one guy gets picked over another, I'm sure that sometimes it can make things a little tough.
Oh man, I've hurt some feelings already these last 2 years. I know that, um, especially being from the Northeast. Those are my guys and girls. But again, I have a job to do at the end of the day. I want to make sure again that we have the best officials out there on the court, that we've trained them well. But yeah, it comes with the territory, man. We one of the things we try to stress is bringing new officials in. So there's going to be officials left out. So the one thing that I've been able to do is be honest to our officials of, hey, you didn't get chosen because of A, B, and C. That's one thing that I'm not afraid to do is letting them know of why they didn't get chosen. And for the ones that did get chosen, I tell them, hey, this is why you got chosen. Now keep it up. That's part of the other process is you got to that spot. That doesn't mean you stay stagnant now. Now you go give back to everybody else, and you teach and train and do all the other stuff that the other veteran officials did to get those officials better. So yeah, it's a tough job. Again, we're going to hurt feelings, or I'm going to hurt feelings. People are going to be mad at me. It's part of the job. But again, we're still friends off the court and the field. It's just, hey, we'll get over it.
Yeah, business is business, right?
Business is business.
Yeah. Do you have any nightmare moments where
Uh-oh.
like take your work home with you? Like, oh, I missed that call. Do you ever just sit there and not be able to sleep about something maybe you did do wrong or you wish you would have done better?
Oh yeah, all the time. Again, all our officials that are veterans and good officials that have been in the game and still go back and watch their videos. There's always a call from every game that I go back and say, man, I really kicked that call. Man, I wish I could take that one back. I wish I had that technical on that kid. If I would have just done A, B, and C, D wouldn't have happened. It's constantly on every game. I can have a call every game. I'm like, God darn it, I shouldn't have called that.
I can only imagine. Now, what about the good moments? You have a highlight moment where you like to see, you know what? It was like throwing a perfect game right there.
You know what? I don't want to say it's like a good moment, but it's those times you come off the court where there weren't any issues. You weren't really involved too much where the kids played a heck of a game. The fans were great. You walk off and you can go have a cold beverage with your colleagues after the game. That's probably the best that I can say. Again, for me, it's the other thing is just making a state tournament. If before coming into this role, I worked a few 5A state championships, and that was like, wow, man, they really trusted me that much. So little things like that, but yeah, trying to stay out of the
One
way.
of your highlight moments I remember is when my son was playing baseball in high school. There was a fan heckling you that was standing about 10 feet away from me, and at one point you turned around and eyeballed him. I thought you looked at me like you know for a fact it's not me yelling at you. I thought for a second you were going to throw me out of there. It's like, oh, this would be terrible.
I do. I recall that game, and it was weird because you actually distracted me. So I'm trying to talk to the fan
Yeah.
and talk to the athletic director, and I was like, "Is that Will?" He's like,
I know that guy. Get him out of here. Yeah.
You could have made life easier, Carl, by just kicking them both out, just because Will distracted you.
Yeah, I guess I could have done that. I say, Will, my car or my truck's parked over there. Meet me over there after the game.
You're distracting me standing there. Get out of here.
Yeah. Those are fun though. They keep us on our toes though, man. I tell you what, those type of games, it helps you become a better official.
Yeah. I'll ask you this. If you told yourself 25, 30 years ago that you'd not only would be an official, but now you'd be overseeing, the officiating crew here in New Mexico, what would yourself 25 years ago said to you?
What the heck are you doing there, Carl? Yeah, never in a million years that I thought I'd come to this role. It was just through the process, as I was going through and networking and coming up the ranks. just one thing that wasn't on my mind to work for the NMAA. Then a spot came open, and I just wanted to come help. But what I saw was that what our office saw in me, and trusted me to get into this role. But yeah, I never pictured myself in this role, and I know when I first came into the NMAA, I was like, man, I don't want that job, But now that I'm here, you know what? It's all that not that bad. Um, I've been in their shoes, so I know what they're going through, and now I see the other side of it. And making sure our officials are doing the correct job. So yeah, it was in hindsight, I would have probably gone somewhere else. I didn't think I would become a commissioner of officials. Yeah.
Have you ever seen an official that just kind of walks into one of these recruitment things and seems kind of meek and quiet, but transforms into a different person when they're on the court, on the floor?
Yeah. We have a lot of those officials. We get them to a game contest, and we're supposed to have pregame. Have a pregame and talk about the game, and they're just quiet. And then you see them out on the court, and like, man, they can really take care of business.
Yeah.
So little do we know what's going inside their head. They probably studied and were ready for the game, and they watched a lot of video that day just to get prepared for that game, and we don't know about it. But yeah, there's some of our quiet ones are some of our better officials. It's weird to see that. It's like,
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Have you ever? That's the thing too. Is what makes a good official? What is there like a personality trait that you look for that you could spot and think, that one might work?
Yeah, as we always called it here, as I was coming up, has that it factor. So again, playing the game kind of helps you out, but just people that can communicate. One of my mentors, coming through, Danny Lujan, is a great official. But one thing that he taught me through the years is communicate. If you screwed up a call, you can go explain that to a coach or a player. Like, hey man, I know what you're going through. I've been in your shoes. Calm down. I saw what happened. If you can communicate with them and then your partners, that makes a great official. Communication is the best. And then again, just knowing the rules, but communication is going to get you a long way.
I love Danny. He's one of the few officials you could talk to during a game. Like, Danny, please eject something for me. Give me something to write about.
Yeah.
That's what I used to tell you all the time. I'd see in the courts, like, throw somebody out of here. Give me something to write about.
Yeah. Danny's probably one of the last guys to do that, man. That guy can talk through anything, and that's one thing that I picked up a lot from Danny. And there's been a lot of other mentors that I've had through the years, but Danny was very helpful in the communication piece.
Now, speaking of Danny, did he get out there a little bit? Did he rep a couple of games this past year when he came back?
No, so Danny's back in the assigning role. So he's assigning baseball and football. But health-wise, he has a few ailments with his knees and stuff like that. So I don't think that he's going to be able to get on a court or a field again. So no, he wasn't able to get on.
Okay. Well, and that seems to be kind of a common theme. I think one of the things that a lot of guys, especially as they get older, they talk about is just the knees. It seems like it's like your knees, your back. I mean, eventually, that's just kind of where you kind of feel the wear and tear from officiating, right?
Yeah, I had my meniscus done a few years back, 4 or 5 years ago, and even somebody as athletic as my brother, you see that guy and he looks athletic, but man, like his calves, like he's a damn man. My Achilles is bothering me tonight. It just comes with the territory. You get the wear and tear in your body of being on a court and up and down, especially at the college level. It's a little bit different. They're a little bit faster and quicker. But I mean, a lot of our officials, again, we're coming from full-time jobs. We're getting off at 4 or 5 o'clock, and then we're going straight to the gym. If you don't warm up properly, that it's going to take a toll. And I know that's what happened to me. Yeah.
I know there's been some officials that come out of New Mexico who've gone on to the major leagues, who've done NFL work, who've done other things. Who's on the Mount Rushmore of officiating that came out of the state of New Mexico? If you had to pick some names that just really jump out at you.
Yeah, of course, Lan Clark is one of our top guys. Our baseball guy, his name just slipped my mind. I had it.
Eddings.
Doug Eddings. Doug Eddings is another one. I'm trying to think of ones in the other sports. But again,
No,
for me, my personal ones are always going to be, my brother just getting to that point, and then some of my other mentors like that down south. We've had some officials leave, but Nate Acosta, heck of an official. We've had plenty in the Las Cruces area that are on that Mount Rushmore. If we could have more than that, and there's quite a bit I can name.
Dana's got to be on there at some point. You just think?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, of course. 25 years with NMAA.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, don't forget John Baca there, softball. He did the College World Series.
Yes,
True.
yes, he did. Yeah. Him and I were back and forth during that time, and he took his hiatus off of assigning football, so he's back doing that. But yeah, that's big, man. When we see our officials out on TV, on national TV, on a national championship, and then able to text him and say, "Hey, John, what about that appendix B, or what was it that he had those calls?" And I think I got enough of that appendix. So it's awesome to see our officials. We have quite a few that work in the college ranks and that went up there. So
yeah, my former next door neighbor Terry Linton used to call college games, and he would tell me stories about the Aggies and the Lobos playing together in the pit, because he did a lot of Division I stuff, and it made me, first of all, curious about officiating and realize, like, I don't think I could ever do it. I don't know if I'd have the mentality to have somebody screaming at me the whole time. But
yeah,
he would just tell me, like, oh, Neil McCarthy from New Mexico State was just a monster. It's like, well, I can only imagine. So
yeah. It's a different ballgame in the college ranks.
Was Baca the guy that was on the Tennessee UCLA game where they had the controversy over the home run?
Who was that again?
Was that Baca that was at the plate when they had the controversy in the Tennessee UCLA softball game?
About
the home run? Touching the plate. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the non-reviewable from Appendix C or something like that. Yeah, that was.
That was crazy just to watch that unfold, and kind of how the Tennessee side was kind of losing their mind over it.
Yeah. Oh, it's like I said, I texted him after that game, man, as I was like, what the heck's Appendix C or D or whatever that
is. Don't look at your phone after the game. Just put it away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Put it away for at least a day or two.
Yeah.
As officials, we know that. We know coming out that game is like, okay, I'm not getting on social media for a couple of days because I know we're in there.
Yeah, no, because regardless of the call you make, one side's gonna hate you.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. It's again, it's like you said, call it both ways. There's always one side unhappy.
Yeah. It's funny. James and I have both covered games. I think especially when we were both younger, we get caught up in the excitement of games, and we maybe write about how bad or good the officiating was. It wasn't until we both got older when you realize these are just people. They're just like us. And now we're like the same age as most of these guys, and we've known them for we've worked together in the same capacity for years. And now it's like you almost have more respect for the officials than you do the athletes and the coaches now. Like there's a symbiotic relationship between the media and the officials. We both take it really hard from other people. So yeah, I'll never say, unless there's just an egregious call, I'll never make a critical statement about officiating again in a story.
Maybe not in the story, but I know in the back of our mind sometimes we're like,
Yeah.
Sure. I still do it. Being that my kids are still playing sports and I'm still watching some of our officials, I'm like, what is that call? Like, do I want to put on my badge and say the commissioner official said you got to change that call? But I would never do that. I've been in those shoes. I know how tough it is to be on that quarter field, and
just go ahead and do it. I've actually heckled my own son when he's umpiring games. Yeah. I've thrown the call it both ways thing at him just to see what he does. So, but yeah, go ahead. Be critical.
Yeah, just wait until he tosses your butt out there, Will.
I know. Get out of here, old man. Yeah.
He's gonna make up for all those times you kind of buzzed him.
Yeah, exactly.
We bust each other all the time as officials. That's one thing that again, having that camaraderie, that's what makes us better too. Is we can get off the court and like, darn, Carl, you really thought that was a travel? I'm like, yeah. What did you see different? And we can exchange videos and say, oh, yeah, I guess I messed that one up. So that's always good.
Yeah, but you never call it perfect, right?
We're never going to call a perfect game. I know I have never called a perfect game.
Man, it's been good stuff. See,
Yeah,
James and I, I know we talked about putting together a big feature story about the shortage of officials. So we'll probably actually hit you up in the next week or so just to do that because we're only a month away from the start of
I know.
preseason
Crazy, isn't it?
practice. That's why we
Yeah,
can. That's why James and I can just relax in gym shorts and t-shirts all day. So we,
Yeah,
yeah,
which is not at all different than how we dress during the season anyhow, let's be honest.
right, exactly, yeah. So we're this close, but that's the thing is before the season starts, we'll actually promote the idea that hey, officiating, they need your help, especially the most vocal people, the most critical people. Those are the ones you should be getting
Yeah,
out and
yeah,
doing.
definitely. I guess with that in mind, is there anything in particular that you want to plug with regards to officiating? Whether it's anything coming up in the next week or two, or in the next month or so.
yeah. So we got our summer conference coming up again. We're getting our officials better off season, so that's one big thing. But I just you want to push the message across to the state that how let's help change the culture in New Mexico. If we can get that to our parents, to our kids, again, what our kids see our parents do, we're probably likely going to be the same way. So if we can be a little bit more positive in the stands and help us retain officials, so New Mexico parents, let's do better. I'm a parent myself, and I know I've been in that point in time where I've been upset with calls and all that, and if you guys, James and Will, you guys know my family in Las Vegas, we're pretty vocal. If we can get that culture to change, we'll have enough officials. We'll be able to retain and recruit more, and your kids or your grandkids will be able to have officials, and we'll be able to play those games. So let's
There
help
you
change the culture across the state and be more positive.
Yeah, I
Be
still have nightmares about your dad yelling at me during games.
yeah. Shout out to my dad. I know I told him I was coming on with you guys, and he said, I won't tell you exactly what he said, but he wanted me to
Yeah,
give you guys a little bit of
You can
heckle you guys
paraphrase.
a little bit.
yeah, I kind of have an idea of what he said. Yeah,
Yeah, shout out to Carl Senior a lot. The family down in Las Vegas, they're still holding it down in Las Vegas for me. So, but yeah,
There you go.
still a good guy.
yeah. Well,
For
that's
sure.
good stuff. Yeah, Carl,
Absolutely.
thanks for coming on with us, man. It's
Yeah, we do appreciate it a
I have
lot.
profound respect for officiating, especially now that we're starting to see the other side of it. You guys have done a great job, and the NMAA does such a good job at holding things together and really promoting the game and turning it into a true profession that people can respect. So, good job to you and the NMAA, the staff. I know you guys work really hard at that.
Yeah, we do.
Sure.
Kudos to the entire office, and hopefully they all get to see this. But what you guys don't see is all the behind the scenes stuff. You guys might have seen it. There's a lot of hustle, a lot of work that goes in prior to you guys, to fans coming to our events.
Yeah,
We put in so much time and effort, and it's not a 40-hour a week job. When it comes down to these state tournaments, we're working quite a bit of hours just to make sure that our student athletes have the best experience and that we're giving a good product to the entire state of New Mexico.
for sure.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
folks, we're gonna take a break. We'll come right back. James and I will wrap it up. But thanks again to Carl Vigil, our guest this week.
Very
And
much. Yes. Thank you. Thank you a lot.
be
You
nice
guys,
to the
thanks for
Zebras.
having me. I appreciate you guys.
Dan, James, that was a great conversation. Look, you and
Yes,
I
it
both
was.
known the Vigil brothers for it seems like
Forever.
it's a lifetime. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like we watched these guys grow up and become professional, successful men. And those are two Northern New Mexico's best guys right there. I did nothing
No, they
bad to say
definitely
about
are.
either one of them.
No, they definitely are, and it's nice to see, especially Curtis being in the position that he's at now.
Yeah,
He's doing a pretty solid job there, and it's always nice seeing him around because I always see him bouncing around from venue to venue. He's not one of those guys that sits in his behind his desk and checks out at 5 p.m. He's definitely out there, probably putting in 65, 70, 80 hours a week.
well, now that we kicked Carl out of here, who was the better athlete?
I'm
Now
not
we
gonna
asked
say.
you.
Yeah,
Huh?
I'm not gonna say, man. Come on.
No, you
We
gotta say
still have to see him later, right?
it.
It's not like this is a one and done kind of deal, man.
Come on,
You can say all you want,
come
man.
on. I know you want to
I
say
like
Curtis. Yeah.
I like living. Okay, how about that? They both suck. How about that? I'll just go
Yeah,
with
there
that.
you go.
At least they can both hate me.
But that was like the start of the Robertson St. Mike's the heated rivalry. That's
Yes,
always been
that's
there, but
right.
that's when it hit another gear because they had just reclassified for the
That's right. St. Mike's
three
had
A.
come back from 2A.
Yeah, exactly. And then that was kind of they were breaking apart into the big school classification. Then you had
That's
4A and
right.
3A. So really, at that point, St. Mike's and Robertson kind of rose to the very top of 3A, and they've been there for a quarter century together.
Quarter
So
century now. Yeah.
yeah.
Of course, all the old school guys will tell you like, this isn't your daddy's 3A. You know, when you had Artesia and St. Pius.
Yeah, there's some validation to that, but
Yeah.
look, you live with you work with what you got, and
Yeah.
it's 25 years is starting to be a long time ago. So
It is, man. They don't put asterisks on state championships, right?
exactly, yeah, yeah, it's been good, but look, I think you and I both seen the need for officiating. How some of these guys are just overworked and really underappreciated.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and you and I have both gotten to know a lot of them, and just it's like they're people. And when they just get abused, verbally abused, that's the thing I always take away is like, good night. Some fans are just
Oh
relentless.
yeah, yeah, and it's brutal, and some of them it's just they never stop. It's like literally from the opening tip, they'll criticize how the ball wasn't straight up in the air,
Yeah,
and they're relentless,
yeah,
and and you're just like, man, it's one, it's just high school sports.
yep,
This isn't professional. This isn't college, and you better not have money on it because it's just like I said, it's just high school. Talking
yeah,
about teenage kids, and this should be more for their enjoyment, and sometimes that sense of competitiveness or desire for your kids to do well sometimes overrides people's common sense and just realizing, hey, it's just a game.
yeah. Well, work on a weekend feature about the
Yes,
officiating
we
stuff.
will.
Yeah, it's such a good story, and there's such a demand for it, and really there needs to be an influx of some younger people because most
Yep.
of the officials are getting up there, and so it'd be nice to see another generation of people come in and just keep doing it. So it falls upon the people in New Mexico to rescue it and to keep it
Yeah,
going.
it does. People like your son. I mean, we kind
Yeah.
of talked about it off the air, but Cade being, getting his feet wet with officiating
Mhm.
is pretty cool to see. And then I was going to mention it, when Carl was here, but we've got a kid from Santa Fe High, who is the goalkeeper, and his name's escaping me right now because it's been that long since I've had to think about soccer, but he was officiating state tournament games even as a side judge, but I mean, that's pretty cool to see that you see some of these young guys coming out there doing stuff like that.
Yeah, and really, I've seen it with my son. And he's one of the people that was mentioned earlier. Carl didn't mention his name, but it's Cisco Cisneros, whose
Yeah.
father plays hoops with us every now and then.
Yeah.
Cisco is one of these younger guys who's getting into to baseball officiating, and it's guys that are straight out of high school. They're in college right now, and they're really excited. They just want to make a difference, and so it's the people that really dedicate themselves to it and are committed to it, and that it's fun to see. It's because it really does develop a thicker skin. That
Yeah. Yeah. You learn how to deal with adversity because
yeah,
I mean, as much as St. Mike's and Robertson might not like each other, I think there are times where the refs are probably the most hated group on the field.
absolutely, yeah. Well, it was like good podcast. We had a really good one last
So,
week too with the Ryan Tamari from the pit press, and now
for the
this
tip
one
press,
with
yes.
officiating. But look, it's almost over. Summer vacation. I know you and I look forward to it all year, and so
It's
it
almost
just
done.
I can't wait for summer vacation. And once it starts, I can't wait for football to start again because I get bored to death. So, uh,
Well, I know you start scraping the bottom of the barrel for story
yeah,
ideas, right?
we're doing Fuego stories every single day. It seems like, which is just
Yeah, that's
completely
right. That's
uncalled for.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, mainly because we don't deal with rodeo anymore.
that's right.
They're dead
Exactly.
to us.
Yeah, but now that rodeo and little league are both done, we have nothing less. There's nothing to
Yeah,
hang our hats on.
absolutely. Unless we want to sit here and just trade barbs for like an hour every week, which is
Yeah,
pretty much what we do.
yeah. Well, we can talk about the Angels, who are now up to 44 wins. So hey, the Angels only need 19 more wins to avoid 100. So 100
Yeah,
losses.
way to keep that bar low there, Will.
Let's say, hey, this the most important week of the season is right
Dude, you,
now
you could
for
raise it a little bit, maybe get it to like 81, like break even.
like if they don't get to the All-Star break at least 500, they're going to become sellers. They're going to sell everybody.
Well, they're right there. I mean, 44 put you right on the cusp of 500. So
they are close. They've lost 6 straight games when they got to 500. They've gotten to 500 6 times this year and lost.
see, you
Never
guys thought your season was made when you swept the Sox. So
Yeah. And then they get swept by the Blue Jays in a 3-game series, which is painful to
yeah,
watch over
they did.
4th of July weekend. It's like,
And look who's back over 500 again. The Red Sox, man. Just when you thought they were dead, they
yeah.
come back to life for a minute.
Well, they can trade for Mike Trout. They can send the entire farm system over to Anaheim for Mike Trout. You guys can do that.
Yeah, I'd have liked Mike Trout 5 years ago, not the broken down one that's out there right now.
Broken down Mike Trout. Yeah, it's exactly. I like how everyone talks about him being a dinosaur and he's 34. Like, golly.
Well, he's starting to play like one, man, because his body keeps breaking down, but that's what happens when you carry an organization for that long.
I just can't wait they're playing in Denver in September. So I'm going to miss part of the football season to go up and watch them play the Rockies.
Yeah, you should do that. It kind of sucked because Chris likes to go up to Denver and she wanted to see a Rockies game, and they're playing the Red Sox this weekend, but they did this past weekend, and unfortunately they're in Boston. So
yeah. Well, tickets are only $150 to a game at Fenway.
Yeah,
you can go up to Coors Field and get them for like $13.
Yeah, I know. I'd rather go there. Actually, they probably jack up their prices for Red Sox games because they know all the Red Sox fans are going to show up.
They probably
conversely, yeah, I bet you those Red Sox tickets are probably at least under $100 for the Rockies, because who wants to see a team that's barely got 20 wins on the year?
Well, and see, here's the thing: it's a little behind the scenes type thing. My son, the official, the umpire, the college baseball player kid, he's going on a tour. This is like a post-mortem graduation celebration thing for him that his aunt is taking him on. He's following the Red Sox. They're playing in Wrigley Field. He's going to watch them play in Wrigley Field. And then they're going to Philadelphia. He's going to watch a game at Citizens Bank Park. And then they're going to go to Fenway and play the Dodgers. So this kid, throughout when he was playing club baseball, he got to go to the Phillies and Diamondbacks NLCS game a couple years ago because they
oh my gosh, that's so cool.
He went to He's been to a game in Yankee Stadium. He is taking an international tour. He's been at Vatican City. My big trip is going to Pewaukee to cover girls soccer on a Tuesday afternoon. I've never been anywhere.
Everybody knows you don't even go to Pewaukee for girls soccer.
No,
you won't even go there just to check out El Parasol.
Exactly. This kid's gone to Wrigley, Fenway, and Yankee Stadium in the Vatican, and I've been to Grant's. Wow, all right, wow.
Yeah. You've seen that pantheon of a stadium that Grant's plays football in, right?
See, now you know that this is why I show up to games and heckle him when he's calling balls and strikes. Like, you suck, Blue. You're terrible.
Just because you're jealous? Is that what it is?
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, I'm not too big to admit it. Like, just spoiled little. Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah, you had him for like 18 years and you raised him that way, so you kind of got to take some of the blame.
It is my fault, but at the same time, doesn't mean I can't be bitter. So
a little bit. Come on, dude. You can get out there and go. You can go to Yankee Stadium.
Hey man, I grew up in northern New Mexico. Bitter is everyone's middle name if you're a Norteño. Like that's the way it is.
Yeah, you're Norteño by osmosis, man. That's about it.
Hey,
drink the water and you just drink too much of it.
my first job was delivering the New Mexican when I was 10 years old. I'm still bitter because I didn't get paid enough.
Journal, man, of all places to start.
Yeah. All right, well, that'll put a wrap on this show. Thanks for tuning in. I know my wife probably didn't even make it this far. I don't know if Chris made it this far to the end of your show. No, probably not.
I don't think she's even watched in any of them yet. Maybe one, but that's it.
And our producer Matt fell asleep 35 minutes ago. So that's
I saw somebody with a stick over there just poking him like every 15 minutes.
So he's just gonna have to walk into his office and hit the off switch. But
there you go.
That's the end of it, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Week.
Thanks for tuning in.